There exists, hidden beneath the mask of civilization, a pattern of living so cunningly designed that most men live and die without ever realizing they were imprisoned. It begins innocently, even nobly. The child is born, sent to school, told to study hard, get good grades, secure a degree, and then find a good job. And what is this job but the first set of golden handcuffs? Thus begins the daily ritual: wake, commute, labor, return, sleep, and repeat. This routine, accepted as normal by society, is in fact the greatest swindle ever sold to the human spirit. It is not life, it is not liberty, it is not the pursuit of happiness. It is existence, cleverly camouflaged as progress. The men and women caught in this cycle are not lazy, nor are they foolish. They are conditioned, programmed by a system that rewards obedience and punishes imagination. They are caught in the rat race, a race not toward fulfillment, but survival, not upward, but in endless circles. And what makes it most treacherous is this: the cage is invisible. The prison bars are not steel, but thought. The door is wide open, yet few ever walk out. The modern world has convinced the masses that the highest aim in life is security. What a deadly word! Security, when pursued blindly, becomes the enemy of greatness. The man who trades his dreams for a monthly paycheck believes he has found safety, but in truth he has bought a temporary illusion at the cost of his birthright to create. He signs a contract with comfort, and in doing so, forfeits his claim to freedom. Look around you. How many brilliant minds spend their days inside cubicles, performing tasks they do not love, for companies they do not own, building fortunes they will never see. All the while, they are praised for being responsible, as if responsibility and resignation were the same thing. They work not for purpose, but for the weekend. Their joy is leased, their time is rented, and their dreams are mortgaged to the future. Yet they are not evil, nor weak. They are merely unaware that this rat race, this pursuit of predictable comfort, is the slow poison of potential. For what is the value of a life spent waiting for Friday, dreading Monday, and calling that normal? The greatest tragedy of the rat race is not the monotony, but the conformity. It demands. The human being, designed by infinite intelligence to be a creator, a thinker, an innovator, is reduced to a cog in a machine, and he accepts it. Why? Because he has been taught that to step outside the pattern is dangerous, that to follow one's dream is irresponsible, that to chase wealth on your own terms is greedy, so he suppresses the fire within. He dulls his ambition with entertainment, soothes his anxiety with distractions, and numbs his dissatisfaction with consumption. He becomes a slave, not by force, but by fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of being different. And all the while, the still, small voice of purpose whispers, "You were made for more." But he silences it. He buries it beneath the noise of the world, beneath the deadlines and debts, beneath the expectations of others. And in doing so, he forgets that he alone is the master of his destiny. He forgets that all progress begins with nonconformity, that all wealth, all freedom, all greatness is born when a man dares to break ranks. But no prison is eternal except the one we do not see. The first step toward escaping the rat race is awareness. Awareness that this life, the one filled with meetings, bills, commutes, and chores, is not the only life available. There is another way. A way that begins not with rebellion, but with realization. The realization that the same mind which created the rat race can uncreate it. The realization that every great man in history, every inventor, every industrialist, every philosopher, every builder of empires, began not with resources, but with a decision to live by design, not default, a decision to pursue freedom, not familiarity, a decision to believe that time is more valuable than money and purpose more important than position. This is the moment, dear reader, where your soul must ask, is this life I live truly mine, or merely the one I was handed? For once that question is asked in earnest, The gears of escape begin to turn. You will no longer walk blindly in the circle. You will stop. You will question. And then you will rise. And that rising, silent, deliberate, powerful, is the beginning of your departure from the rat race. No man has ever escaped the rat race by accident. Freedom is not found. It is forged. It is born the moment a man dares to desire something more, something greater than a paycheck, a promotion, or applause. This desire must not be casual or convenient. It must be so definite, so consuming, that it scorches every excuse and burns away every limitation. Definiteness of purpose, I have called it before, and I call it again, for it is the very root of all upward movement. Without it, a man drifts like a leaf on the wind. With it, he becomes like steel, focused, sharp, and unstoppable. The moment a man decides what he truly wants, with no apology and no retreat, the heavens and earth begin to move. The rat race trembles, for it cannot hold a man who has seen the vision of his true potential. That vision becomes his compass, and his faith becomes fuel. From this point forward, he is no longer a rat running in circles. He is a creator, setting the course of his own life. Understand this. The rat race is sustained not by effort, but by fear. Fear of poverty, fear of ridicule, fear of starting over. And what, I ask, is the only force powerful enough to conquer fear? Faith. Not blind faith in luck or in fate, but faith in one's own ability to think, to act, to grow, to produce. Until a man believes that he can chart his own course, he will remain a passenger in life, not the pilot. The rat race will whisper lies. It's too late. You're not ready. What if you fail? But let me assure you, fear is only a shadow, and faith is the light that dissolves it. When a man embraces belief in himself, even if the world calls him mad, he walks with a certainty that defies doubt. He does not wait for permission to act. He commands his own destiny. He does not fear risk. He welcomes it, for he knows that growth only comes by stretching beyond the comfortable. And so the chains of the rat race begin to fall, not by force, but by faith. All freedom begins in the workshop of the mind. A man cannot build a new life with the same thoughts that built his prison. The rat race is not escaped by running faster. It is escaped by thinking differently. Your thoughts are seeds, and your life is the harvest. Most people, trapped in routine, never pause to examine the beliefs that drive their actions. They believe wealth is for others. They believe security is nobler than freedom. They believe suffering is a price for stability. And so, they act accordingly and remain trapped. But the man who studies his own mind, who questions inherited beliefs and rewrites them with purpose, becomes free in spirit long before he is free in circumstance. He begins to think not as a worker, but as a builder, not as an employee, but as an entrepreneur, not as a pawn, but as a king. He visualizes his future with clarity, writes his goals with certainty, and speaks his intentions with boldness. The rat race, unable to hold such a mind, begins to fade into irrelevance. Here lies the ultimate distinction between those who remain trapped and those who escape. Reactivity versus creativity. The masses live by reaction. They respond to bills, to bosses, to emergencies. They spend their time fixing problems, not building dreams. But the man who escapes the rat race becomes a creator. He builds systems. He invests in ideas. He multiplies time by designing life on his terms. He does not work for money alone. He makes money work for him. And this shift from reacting to creating is what transforms a common man into a free man. You were not made to live at the mercy of the calendar. You were not born to be a servant to someone else's goals. You were born with the power to choose, to imagine, to act. And with these divine gifts, you can rise above the maze of mediocrity and enter a life of meaning. The rat race cannot survive where vision, faith, and creative action live. It withers in the face of a mind on fire. Light your mind and the race ends, right where you stand. Desire, faith, and thought are the architects of your new life, but action is the builder. Too many men read, study, dream, and then do nothing. They become libraries of unused potential. But freedom is not granted to thinkers alone. It is earned by doers. The man who wishes to escape the rat race must not only know what he wants, he must know how to go after it. And that how comes through specialized knowledge, one of the cornerstones of wealth. Not general education, not trivia, not titles, but practical, focused learning aimed at a definite goal. The man who learns how to build systems, to invest wisely, to sell effectively, to create value for others. He holds the keys to a fortune. Combine this with daily, deliberate action, and the rat race becomes powerless. Action transforms you. It gives shape to your thoughts. It magnetizes opportunity. It awakens your soul. The man who takes even one step daily toward his own enterprise, toward financial independence, is already freer than the man running in circles at full speed for someone else. One of the greatest deceptions of the rat race is dependence on a single stream of income. A job, no matter how prestigious, is but one pipeline. When it clogs, collapses, or is cut off, the man is exposed. True freedom lies not in earning more at one job, but in building many sources of income, each flowing without constant labor. This is not fantasy. It is strategy. Begin with one, a product, a service, an investment, a digital asset. Learn how to plant the seed of a system that can work when you are not. Every man who escapes the rat race has this one thing in common. His income is no longer tied to his time. He may still work, but he chooses how, where, and with whom. He leverages knowledge, technology, and creativity to separate time from earnings. This is the economic foundation of liberty. It is how an idea becomes a legacy. Wealth is not hoarded, it is designed. And the designer of wealth is not the man who works the hardest, but the man who thinks the smartest. No man escapes alone. If you surround yourself with men who complain, who settle, who fear risk, you too shall become one of them. The rat race is not just physical or mental, it is social. The average man lives in a circle of influence that punishes ambition. He shares dreams with people who cannot see. He seeks advice from those who have never left the maze. And so he remains trapped, not because he lacks ability, but because he lacks alignment. If you wish to rise, you must change your environment. Read books by men who have walked the road. Listen to mentors who speak the language of vision. Form alliances with builders, creators, and thinkers who remind you daily of who you are becoming. One great conversation can undo a year of doubt. One new association can open 10 new doors. Protect your mind like a fortress. Feed it with power. Surround it with fire. The man who changes his circle changes his altitude. He does not drift. He climbs. Freedom is not the absence of discipline. It is its greatest reward. The man who wakes by habit, who plans his days, who guards his focus, who commits to his craft, this man is not a slave. He is a sovereign, and his discipline is not bondage, but self-respect. The rat race lures men with comfort. Sleep in, take it easy, live for the weekend. But every ounce of comfort borrowed today must be paid with freedom tomorrow. The man who escapes the maze is not the man with the best ideas, but the one who executes them relentlessly, without excuse. He masters his mornings. He tames his mind. He keeps his word to himself. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. It turns scattered motion into purposeful movement. You will know you are escaping the rat race not when others notice, but when you no longer need motivation to move. You move because you must, because you are building, because you are free. The man who escapes the rat race does not merely exit a system, he enters a new world, one governed by intention. He no longer drifts through life reacting to circumstance. He designs his days, engineers his income, selects his associations, and builds his environment. His alarm clock is no longer a command. It is a choice. His work is not a burden. It is a mission. While others wait for permission to rest, he creates a rhythm that suits his highest state. This, my friend, is not fantasy. It is freedom by design. The life of the architect is not easier, but it is richer. spiritually, mentally, financially. He does not ask, "What should I do?" He declares, "This is what I will build." He no longer chases opportunity, he creates it. The same man who once worked 10 hours for a wage now works for impact, legacy, and vision. Time, once traded for money, now becomes his greatest asset. Every hour is aligned with purpose. Every action, a brick in the mansion of destiny. The true victory is not what you build on the outside. It is what transforms within. The man who once feared risk now sees it as a necessary stair to power. The man who once waited to be told what to do now listens only to the voice of purpose. The rat race, though still visible in the world around him, no longer exists in his heart. He does not look down on others, but he no longer envies them. He pities the cage, but never returns to it. The escape is permanent because the identity has changed. He has burned the bridge back to average. He has buried the mask of conformity. He has become unshakable. And the world begins to respond to this new self, not with applause, but with alignment. Opportunities that once eluded him now seek him. Partnerships, wealth, ideas, they orbit him like iron to a magnet. This is not luck. This is the natural consequence of becoming a man of definiteness, faith, and creative action. But freedom brings with it a higher duty. The man who has escaped must now become the torchbearer. It is not enough to be free. He must show others the way. He must speak where silence once ruled. He must build what others dare not. He must live so boldly that his life becomes a mirror to the enslaved, a challenge to the doubters, a spark for the dreamers. True leaders do not command, they embody. The free man teaches not with words, but with example. He shows that it is possible to live outside the maze. That one can be wealthy and honorable. That one can be disciplined and joyful. That one can create a life that serves not just himself, but others. He builds businesses that uplift. He invests in ideas that liberate. He writes, speaks, shares. He multiplies the message. For what good is a light if it hides beneath safety? What good is freedom if it is not used to free others? Now, my friend, the time has come for you to make a decision. The same decision every great man has made. Will you continue the cycle, walking in circles, mistaking movement for progress? Or will you rise, not tomorrow, not someday, but now? Will you escape the rat race not just in income, but in spirit? Will you become the architect of your life? For know this, no external condition has more power than an internal decision. No gate is stronger than your will to walk through it. And no man is truly trapped who believes, desires, and dares to act. You were not born to run in circles. You were born to build pyramids, to carve mountains, to write your name in the stone of history. Burn the map they gave you. Draw your own. The maze ends the moment you declare, with unwavering certainty, I am free. And so it begins, not with noise, but with clarity. Not with applause, but with a quiet, bold step into the life that was always waiting for you to claim it. To escape the rat race is a triumph, but to stay free, to grow free, and to help others become free, this is where a man becomes immortal. Understand this truth. Your personal escape is only the beginning. You have been given the rarest of treasures, awareness, agency, autonomy. These are not just gifts, they are tools, and you are called to use them not only to enrich yourself, but to elevate others. For what is wealth if it dies with you? What is time freedom if it ends at your calendar? The truly free man thinks beyond the moment, beyond the bank, beyond even his lifetime. He plants seeds of legacy, a business that outlives him, a philosophy that frees others, a story that inspires generations. You must not only escape, you must become a builder of bridges, bridges for those who are still trapped in fear, in systems, in silence. That is your higher mission. You cannot leave a legacy by working harder. You must think longer. The man of freedom does not only ask, how can I succeed? He asks, how can I create something that succeeds without me? That is the difference between a man who is self-employed and a man who is truly sovereign. Begin to build with systems, automated, Delegate it. Document it. Design with vision. Make yourself replaceable. Build with intention to be absent. This is not laziness. It is leverage. The wealthiest men in history were not the busiest. They were the wisest. They did not sell their time. They duplicated their mind in systems, people, and structures that stood long after their hands stopped moving. Begin today. Document what you know. Train others. Write, record, share. Your greatest ideas should not die in your journals. They should live in the hands of many. A free man builds machines. A legacy man builds empires. If you are a father, a teacher, a mentor, listen well. Your freedom is your child's blueprint. They are not learning from what you say, but from how you live. If they see you rise every morning to a life you designed, they will believe it is possible. If they see you work with purpose, not panic, they will learn to chase meaning, not money. Do not just leave them wealth. Leave them principles, philosophy, courage. Let them inherit not just your assets, but your attitude. Speak openly of your journey from the maze to the mountaintop. Share the pain, the pivot, the power. Make legacy your curriculum. Too many fathers hand their sons a bank account, but never a belief system. Too many teachers assign lessons, but never teach liberation. You have escaped. Now be the lighthouse, so those born in darkness know which way is home. Remember, the rat race does not end until the next generation refuses to enter it. There comes a time when every man must ask, what will they say when I am gone? Will your name be forgotten in the traffic of time, or will it be remembered in the corridors of history? Will they say you lived safe, or that you lived sovereign? Will they say you survived, or that you built? There is a book being written, not by hands, but by actions. A book of men and women who escaped the common life and created the uncommon, who traded fear for faith, who chose impact over applause. Your name may never appear on the front page, but it can be etched in eternity by how you lived. Let them say of you, here was a man who escaped the rat race, not to hide, but to help, not to retire, but to rise, not to vanish, but to leave a mark. That, my friend, is the final victory, not just to escape, but to build a life that continues freeing others long after you've left the room. You did not come this far merely to escape. That was only the beginning. You were never meant to just leave the old game. You were meant to invent a new one. The man who truly transcends the rat race is not defined by opposition to it. He is defined by the world he creates in its place. You see, escape is reaction, but creation is evolution. Do not be content with tearing down what enslaved you. Instead, build what liberates others. Build with such beauty, boldness, and truth that the very existence of your life becomes a form of protest against mediocrity. Build ventures that solve real problems. Build experiences that stir the soul. Build art, ideas, platforms, and paths that open new frontiers. You are no longer a player in someone else's game. You are the game maker. The man who transcends the rat race writes new rules, and others follow not because he demands it, but because he dares. Let us speak plainly about money, because the man who flees the rat race without mastering money still lives in fear. But the man who understands money not worships it, not chases it, commands it. He sees it for what it is, a multiplier. It multiplies your message, your mission, your reach. The man who once worked for it now makes it work for him, and through him, it works for the world. Money becomes a servant of ideas. It becomes fuel for fire. You use it to buy time for thinking, for giving, for building systems that outlive your body. Money in the hands of the free man becomes sacred. It does not buy yachts or applause. It builds schools, moves mountains, funds revolutions of thought. So do not shy away from wealth. Do not fear its power. Embrace it, master it, and then wield it with purpose. For money is a mirror. It reflects who you are becoming. Let it reflect a creator, not a consumer, a king, not a captive. You need no podium. You need no stage. The greatest message you will ever preach is the way you live your life. Your life becomes the sermon. The way you work, the way you speak, the way you treat strangers, the way you build, these are your words. The man who has truly escaped the rat race does not boast. He simply lives with such clarity, calm, and courage that others must ask, "What do you know that I do not?" And that question opens the door, not to instruct, but to inspire. You walk in peace, not panic. You move with focus, not frenzy. You create, not to impress, but to express. That energy becomes contagious. Others begin to question the maze. Others begin to dream. And before long, your life becomes a magnet, pulling souls out of slumber. You need not change millions. Change one, and do it deeply. That ripple will echo across generations. This is how movements begin, not with noise, but with one life fully lived. And now, I leave you with this final truth. You were never a rat. You were never meant to race. You were born with the power to create, to command, to transcend. The maze was a test, yes, but it was never your home. Your soul knew it all along. And now that you see it, now that you know, you can never unsee. Never go back. Never settle. The chains have fallen, not because the system changed, but because you did. You have awakened. You are sovereign. You are free. And more than that, you are the message. The next generation is watching. The world is waiting. So go forth, not as a man who escaped, but as a man who became. Let your work be your worship. Let your wealth be your weapon. Let your life be your legacy. The rat race is over. The architect has risen. The creator has arrived. And the world will never be the same. You have crossed many thresholds, but the greatest threshold is the one within. True freedom begins with mastery over self, mastery over your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. The world is filled with men and women running wild, chasing goals, desires, dreams, yet they remain prisoners of their own mind. But you, the man who has chosen to escape the rat race, you have learned that the greatest battle is never fought with the outside world. It is fought in the quiet, unseen corridors of your own mind. When you can control your thoughts, you control your destiny. When you command your emotions, you command your life. The man who masters himself is unstoppable, for he does not wait for circumstances to change. He changes the circumstances. He does not ask for permission. He creates the path. The greatest weapon you will ever wield is the mind you've trained to rise above chaos, to act with purpose, and to remain steadfast in the pursuit of your vision. To become unstoppable, you must possess unwavering focus. The greatest achievers in history have one thing in common. They were not the busiest men. They were the most focused. The man who has escaped the rat race has learned to eliminate distractions. He is not pulled by the whims of fleeting fads or seduced by the promise of easy gains. He is a master of his craft, pouring hours into deliberate, focused action toward a clear, singular goal. This is not work, it is purpose, and purpose is the fuel of mastery. Mastery requires consistency. It requires you to say no to hundreds of things in order to say yes to the one thing that matters most. Focus is the bridge between your vision and its fulfillment. You must guard your time like the most precious resource, for it is the currency with which you purchase your destiny. Master the art of focus, and the world will open doors for you that others will never even see. The path of greatness is not paved with the absence of doubt, but with the presence of unshakable belief. There will be moments, even for the greatest men, when doubt creeps in, when the winds of failure blow cold and fierce. But the man who is truly unstoppable does not abandon his belief at the first sign of hardship. He embraces it. He moves through it. The great Napoleon Hill himself said, "What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." The key is belief, not as a fleeting thought, but as an unshakable conviction that your vision is inevitable. Your belief is the anchor that holds you steady in the storm. Your belief is the magnet that pulls your desired outcome toward you. And your belief is the silent